to do this first 24 hours because I am extremely certain that what happens in the first 24 hours makes or breaks your week. And I want to start with the first 2 hours because those 2 hours to me are so important. And even as the assistant director this summer, I saw so many things fall through the cracks during the 2 hours of registration that, I really, can't stress enough the first 2 hours of camp, and then we'll work on the other 22. But, so when you as a dean are sitting at the tables out there or in, depending on whether it's raining, which it did a lot last summer. We seem to be in the dining hall a lot, the social hall. And your counselors are the ones that are back here greeting the kids that are coming in. And often the parents leave the kids and then they don't have anything to do until 4 o'clock when the deans come back and start their programming. And this is when a whole lot of homesickness happens, bullying, kids get lost, they just don't know what to do, they feel, unwelcomed, and so it's imperative that your counselors have something for the kids to do when their parents drop them off. Hopefully some of them are going to taking their swim test. Counselors are supposed to go with kids to take their swim test. Unless their parents go with them. But I have seen plenty of, high schoolers, 7th and 8th graders just walking down there by themselves with their, bathing suits on, or they come out to make their name tag because they hadn't done it yet, and they're with no one or they're with one other kid. Yes?
Why don't you finish your sentence? But that swim test thing is something I've never figured out how to crack, because as soon as the counselor takes some of them down, they're not here to welcome whoever's left, and if they wait until everybody arrives,
it's too late.
There's only 10 minutes for swim tests.
Yep.
So, one of the ways we deal with all problems counselor related is to have an extra counselor when we can pull that off. But
right.
Any insights you have about that specific going to swim tests?
I'm a fan of extra counselors. I have paid for the food for extra counselors myself, or not myself, but actually once myself. But have the counselors like to come here if they have to pay $100 or $150 for the food. Some of them will, or if your churches already give scholarships, that can work, for that. Or if you're one of the people who doesn't spend your very tiny budget that pays for an extra counselor, your budget will, for the most part, if you're not, spending it on supplies and stuff. But so having an extra counselor so that somebody can go down, but there doesn't have to be someone if you're in a building, a female counselor can go down and the other counselors can help with the room setup. It's not optimal because then you don't have a counselor in the room, but as long as they're, working on it, and if you're and it also isn't necessarily optimal, but if you have a co-dean, one of you can be at the table and one of you can be in your building or in your place. And you can switch halfway through if that works. That can also work. As far as, or you could tell your kids, we're gonna take our swim test on Monday when we go down for our first swim. And that's not, a bad thing. The problem is some of the kids may have actually, taken their swim tests before they even came to you. They may have worn their suits and jumped out and registered and gone down for their swim test before they went through the lines.
They haven't gone to the cabin and
and
so
checked in or
that
anything,
part hasn't started for them yet.
Yeah, but as long as they're with their parents.
Yeah.
So that's, so you really, the swim test is a hard thing to to function through you.
Has there been great resistance with parents not wanting to go down with them? Because we just said that that's what was happening that day. And all the parents seemed to accompany the kids. I think we had a couple kids that showed up really late, so we just really couldn't send them.
Right.
And then those couple kids had to do it on their first
I've seen
swim
both.
day.
I've seen parents like drop the kids practically at the front door. Aren't you going to kiss your mother goodbye? Well, she's already gone, you know. But I've also seen parents that look like the cartoon characters because the father is pulling the mother while she's hanging on to the sides of the doors, you know, trying to keep from getting let go. And it's not the child who's having the problem, it's the mother. So you get both. But if that's what you say, and if you say it in your dean's letter, even, you know, you could do that. Parents will be expected to take the kids down to their
The only disadvantage to that, I would say, is that extends the time when parents are here. And
And we like
frankly,
the parents to go.
the kids start having their experience when the parents leave.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes they want to cling to the parent, and the best thing for them is to not have the parent there to cling to.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So
I
it's
wouldn't
either
generally
both-
do it
it's
that
either
way.
larger
both and
conference,
or-
if you have a larger conference, Waterfront doesn't mind if you come down on the first swim day and have to test 40 kids.
Well, let's put it this way, Waterfront is there to serve you.
Yeah.
You let
But-
them know ahead of time.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
said it ahead of
Yep.
time.
practically speaking, I don't think, I mean, they do as many as they can. And
Yeah.
last summer, we had kids who had to test on Tuesday. It messed us up because my week, we ended up having Mudge Mountain on Tuesday. And then we had
And you
kids who
have
hadn't
to pass a
tested.
swim test to go on Mudge Mountain.
So we filed that away for, we'll advocate for having Mudge Mountain later
Later.
in the week.
Most of them do have it later in the
Mhm.
week. I'm not sure why you guys
Yeah.
haven't.
It may have been
Top of my
family
head.
camp or something was the
Yeah,
same week
maybe
they
it
wanted
was a
it.
family
It actually
camp
was
thing.
Moms and me.
Mom and me, I mean, that's what I meant.
Stagger your
Yeah.
counselors too when they take the swim test because like some of us, I have in 6th grade and I've counseled for them before, and some of us don't even take the swim test because we only stay in the shallow end because some of our kids aren't comfortable with that. So if you have some of the adults that are in the shallow end too or haven't taken their swim test, that'll make the kids more comfortable too.
Yeah, that's true. Keeping kids.
And then with the name tag thing, last year we had the name tag stuff brought to our cabin. So once they were there, they didn't have to leave. They were with their counselor the whole time. We used the camp staff to bring them down. So Drew and I stayed at the table where we could both greet them. The camp staff brought them over to cabin circle, and the counselors were in the cabin the whole
You're
time.
telling my story. No, but that's another thing that I was going to say is that's one of the things you can do as an activity once they get to your, you know, space, is you can have the name tag stuff there so that they can say goodbye to their parents and they can make their name tags with the magic markers and the awesome little wood pieces that Josh actually has.
Actually,
Really
I
good,
was
but
just
you probably
gonna-
made it someplace else.
Point that out. Yeah, and they actually painted this. It's got a
Yeah.
dog's litter on it. And she's planning on painting the background and the tree on all of the.
Cool.
we keep
Are you
calling
watching the
them
Lorax then for one of your?
I think probably at some point
At
we
some
will
point,
actually
yeah,
watch the
'cause
Lorax. We are
That's a
seeing
movie I was
pictures.
gonna suggest if anybody was looking for
But
a
so
movie
then
with
the
a
Josh on here
purpose,
is just
yeah.
a Sharpie.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's
so
what
we
they did
can-
last year, and some of the people actually had their just used Sharpies, and, last year, and
So
they're
you could
pretty
do
cool.
themed-
You know, you can,
themed names.
but even
If
for
you
the
want
kids
those
doing their
wood
own
cookies
thing.
ahead of time, let us know.
Yeah, well.
Don't let me
can't
know
do
right
that now. But
somebody who
say
will know
we
if-
want all of
if
our
you-
wood cookies, you know, in our
Well,
building or in
no,
our space.
I'd like to paint them up ahead of time.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah, and that's,
Yeah, a sale would be a great thing
Yeah.
for a background.
so the only thing is we need to make sure we get them to you in time to do that, so you've got to alert us, because
You betcha.
I will forget in
Yeah,
about
I
3
might
seconds.
do so.
Is anybody using Mod Podge on the wood cookies?
You could certainly use Mod Podge or really thin Elmer's glue with water, which is what Mod Podge is. You know, so, although they do have glitter Mod Podge now, it's awesome.
Add glitter to the-
Add glitter to the watered down glue, yeah. So, but that's an activity that the kids can do, you know, after they unpack and they're still in the building, so you know where they are, and they're there, and they're making their tag. The other thing that I have done for a lot of years, and I brought one, and I don't know why I can only find one, but you go to the dollar store, and these are $1, they're the thicker boards, and they're only, you know, rectangles. And we cut them out ahead of time, which you have to use a Dremel or something. I mean, you can use like a carpet knife, but it takes a really long time. And my husband laughs every year when I would bring home the 7 or 8 of these. And you put a color on the back. If you've ever been to a confirmation retreat,
Right.
this is where the idea came from, for the confirmation retreat ones, just so you know. And you throw these out in a pile with magic markers, and the kids have to take it and they have to draw about themselves. And then they have to figure out, and this comes later, which is good, because if they're there with a friend, they don't usually end up, with a friend with their same color. They have to find their color, and they have to put their, rectangle together in, the poster board size, and then in that small group of 6 or 7, depending on how many are in your conference, which in advance, but you can't do this till the last minute, so, because people always get added to your conferences, you can talk about, amongst yourselves, what you like, you look, I got Silver Lake here, I got my car, my guitar, my piano, and there's a lake, so this is from 2008. And you have your counselors all pick a different color in advance. They can make theirs on Saturday night or Sunday morning, so that there's going to be a counselor in each group, and so there's not going to be a group without kids. So, but this is the kind of thing you can make Sunday between 2 and 4 when you start, and then at 4 o'clock, when the deans come back and do a little intro, you can do this, and you can start off with us, in small groups talking, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in a circle with 40 people, what are they going to make me do? But any activity that they can do, such as that, during the time that they're registering, that they're not just sitting and saying, oh, I want to go home. They have to be busy at something that, and then, we tape them all together and put them up on the fireplace or up on the walls for the week, and then those groups are often useful later on in the week. Oh, this group is waiters, and if you have that many tables, it works out really well. Or this group has Fred duty, or we're going to split into our groups from Sunday afternoon to do this, whatever activity it is. So you've already got groups of people who don't know each other who can, start to learn about each other. Does anybody else have any other kind of activity that they've done in those first 2 hours on?
We sometimes split up our counselors within the same area, obviously, but we'll be like, if you want to go play this game, you're going to go with this counselor. If you want to go do this, go to this counselor, and give them choices so they feel like they're in control of it. And then the other thing is something similar to that. If they all have a different color sticker on their forehead and they don't know what color it is, and you have to find the people that have the same color as you, and then use those groups for sitting together at dinner on Sunday, so you have a group of people that you're already going to sit with at dinner.
Right. So that will bring me to intros at dinner. I would say right here, and to anybody, don't just let the kids go to the ball field and eat. If you're talking about homesickness, especially for the 4th, 5th, 6th graders, there's always kids crying on the ball field at Sunday dinner. But most of the time when that happens, it's because the counselors and deans are not sitting with the kids at dinner because it's on the ball field. Even for the high schoolers, for God Slam, they have to sit with their bunk rooms, on the ball field for dinner.
Or you could make it your group from the puzzle or whatever, as long as there's a group.
But you have a specific, or your group with the dot, as long as there's a group that, you have a counselor who's looking for these 8 kids, and they're going to sit together and they're going to feel like they belong. And the same thing when you come to the amphitheater. Don't let your counselors stand in the back, because that's what they want to do after the kids all get trampled down the staircase there. Make the counselors sit with the group of kids, make them keep counting the kids, some counselors can take it a little too far, sometimes, and they're like, little drill sergeants, but you know what, if that works on Sunday, it's okay. As long as it doesn't go all week long with the drill sergeant.
I just remember one thing about small groups that we made a note of at the end of last year. We did a lot of our small groups in cabins. Right? So you learn your 8 people that are in your cabin, and that's your 8 folks. And that, practically speaking, worked really well. But the feedback we got, the insight we got from counselors at the end of the week with our 5th and 6th graders, is that kids all behaved better when we were mixed gender. And they behaved less well when they were single gender. So we made a note to find some other mechanisms for creating small groups, not just relying on the
Well,
cabin
that's what
divisions.
dots.
Yep,
dots
exactly.
on your
Everywhere we
head.
got.
And
Or-
well, your puzzle, I love
Yeah,
that.
or the puzzles. You can actually do body parts. You make up a whole bunch of little cards that say arm, leg, head, foot, and just everybody who has an arm.
If you have
Or
material that you're
wearing a
handing
green
out.
shirt or something like that.
Like when we were doing the where we had a packet of material that each of the kids got. Well, each packet could be in a different color.
Yeah.
And so then they're separated by color that way too. All kinds of ways.
Yeah, no, there's really, lots and lots of ways to.
We had the intention of having them have some sort of journal for the week so that at various times when we were going to ask them to write something in it, whether it was something they would just keep to themselves but they needed to reflect on, or whatever kind of activity they might be doing with that over the course of the week, we had them make those journals
When they first got
When they
there.
first got there.
Awesome.
And that was an activity, sometimes we would send them to their bunks at quiet time with a brief. We didn't want to take up all their quiet time in
What do
case
they
some of
call
them actually
that
wanted
in
to.
school? The kids have a writing prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just a brief little thing, like,
Yeah.
think about,
No, don't call it that, but yeah.
think about this and write a few sentences about it in your journal or whatever, so.
Yep, no, that's an awesome idea.
Have some, we had some supplies that we had brought, but also some colored paper and things from the art hut and however you want to do it, punch holes.
Yeah, punch holes, use them.
Tie yarn.
Tie yarn, yep.
There was just a bunch of supplies that they could use, decorate the cover with their name.
That's good, that's good. You can use magazines, some kind of, if you don't want to draw, you can make them cut out pictures. That's got a lot of cleanup for Sunday afternoon.
That part was messy, but
As far
they
as
all,
cleanup
I
goes.
gave them something to do.
We
Instead
used-
of like a cabin name or whatever, we did the clowns, we had, each cabin had to come up with a clown troop name, because they were going to be a troop of clowns, so they had to have a name to present, this is this group, or this is that. So they would come up with that and then draw a poster, and then that poster was hanging up in their space all week, and that was fun too.
And as we're talking about cabin names, something that I feel like is really, really welcoming is to have some awesome door signs. Not just a piece of paper stuck in there that says you're in this cabin.
Right.
You're all extremely creative, your counselors are extremely creative. Even the high schoolers like to have their, pictures on the doors.
It's another opportunity to work your theme.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. But even if you're not, if the counselors, a couple of years ago, Emily Hale, who is deaning my conference now, with Kim, she had she drew a hairspray bottle and a mirror and lipstick and stuff like that, and she put each girl's name on that kind of thing. But they love it, and the boys drew even dinosaurs, but for the high schoolers or ninjas or whatever, and it just it makes them feel welcome to see their name creatively done. Or if you're gonna have just a piece of paper and they draw their own, that could be something they could do in that 2-hour spot from 2 to 4. Make their own name thing to put on the door, and that I had never even thought of that ever, and so that's a really good idea.
A couple of things. One time we had a conferee whose name was Chris, and we thought it was a girl, but it was a boy, or vice versa. So be sensitive to that. Name things. Make sure we're supposed to know in our database, but sometimes the parents put the wrong gender in.
Yep, or they don't
Yeah.
put one and you assume, when I was in
Well,
camp,
it's
we
a
had
required
Kim who
field, I
was a
think.
boy, and Kim got put in with the girls,
Right.
because it was just Kim.
And sometimes it's not a big deal, but whatever, you want the counselor to like get on it
To
right
get
away.
on it quick.
The other thing I was going to say is we used to have counselor races, really cabin races. So your object as a counselor was to have your cabin fill up first. And so when the cabin got a new person, everybody was really excited and they cheered and they got, like made a big deal out of it. So again, it's like the very first thing that happens is you get there and everybody's really excited you're there.
Cheering for you, yeah.
And that, whatever it is you do, that's the intention. We want kids to come in and go, oh, wow, I'm expected.
Yeah.
They know I'm coming and they are happy I'm here.
Happy I'm here and I'm welcome.
I make them something and leave it in their bed. Every kid gets a something,
Nice.
I make them something. The Oriental trading or what have you, and I buy all these craft kits and everything that has their name on it. And we put them in beds and they have to find them if they don't like that bunk. They could get another one, but it's in their room and then they hang it on their bed. They like that.
That's another tip that when I was a counselor, the very first time I was a counselor, I had a kid, one of my conferees was crying in the middle of the night and I didn't know the person's name. I just didn't know which it was. I knew where that child was. So from then on, two things. One, I always kept a list in my pocket with my conferees' names, and the other was I had them put a name tag on their bunk. It was like helpful because then they felt like this was their space, and I could look at that. Names are a really bad thing for me. I just am bad at remembering names, but that was a tool I used that worked out as a nice thing too. But counselors need to know by the very first night everybody's name in the conference in their bunk room, and be able to call them by name, even if they need a cheat sheet.
One thing though to be careful of, you have to do that for everybody. You can't let the counselor just do it, because I have had a counselor who's extremely wonderful counselor and mothering, but she made presents for all her kids, but I didn't know about it, and none of the other kids had presents, and just her bunk did, and it was like, no, you just can't do that, because that kind of breaks community.
I made them, that's
Even
why
if you think you're building community, you're not.
I make them, but that's why it's really important that we get those lists. They're really kind of bumming that we're not getting those lists. I would check them every couple weeks to see how many kids I have and who do I have new. And I buy a lot of things. And if I have, 11 kids and now I don't know until the week before that, now, it just puts a cramp on, all right, well, how do I find all this stuff now? You don't want to be a good steward of your money, and you don't want to be buying all of these items or all these materials for kids you do not have.
Well, if you have 11 a week ahead of time, you're not going to have 25 by the time camp.
Well, and also,
you could have
a week
15 or
beforehand.
16.
anytime you would have gone on and looked at Thriva, email Jen or Mary. Seriously. That's what we have to do this year. And
or call them.
I don't want you to not get,
Yeah.
that's an awesome thing that you're talking about. I don't want that to not happen just because we can do that. It's not a big deal for them. They just push a button.
Oh, all right, I won't feel bad about doing it then.
No.
Another thing we did was, we took chart paper, what am I trying to say?
Yeah.
Graph paper?
Flip chart.
Flip charts, thank you. Flip chart paper and cutting out as big as you could get out of the paper you had, a heart, and have the kid decorate that with, you get some of those foam stickies so they can use letters to put their name on it, and just have a bunch of other stuff that they can decorate it with or they can draw on it in a limited amount, because you really want to leave white space. But then each kid had that and just posted them all around the cabin, and the intention was throughout the week that people write affirmations about each other on the heart. And
So each child got
each
a heart.
child and the counselors and everything had them too.
So you made sure the counselors were writing affirmations on the ones that weren't getting as many though, right?
Yes. But at first, they're empty.
Yep.
But by the end of the week, they're all going around like at the last minute. Oh, I gotta say something, and they leave with that.
You can do that in paper bags. We've done paper bags on like a clothesline with, and then you put the affirmation inside, and then of course Thursday night, the counselors and the deans are opening them up and making sure everybody has you know, a good amount.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
a poster board and gluing envelopes on them, and then you just slide it in the
Right,
envelope.
right.
Yeah, like
But then
that,
you gotta
that's
look,
good,
you know, Thursday
Yeah.
night, you have Friday night at the
So it's
latest,
like
you
little
have to
care
look.
notes, little
yeah.
affirmations,
Yeah, make sure.
little noticings of what, when people
Yeah,
were
well,
helpful
good
or
stuff.
whatever.
I would suggest, just for me, that you wait to do the covenant until after supper.
Right.
Do some getting to know you stuff in that 4 to 5:15 time period, play lots of games, you know, where they have to do the names. The name game that we did last night that Amber did, I've never done the names with the machines before. I've played the machine game and I've done name games, but that was new to me. One of my favorites is to have everybody in a circle, and I won't make us all do it, but you throw something, this is a little big, but this was the first thing I found, to someone, and you say the name of the person you're throwing it to, so Josh, and he has to throw it to somebody else. Cheryl's over here.
Sure.
There we go. I mean, you guys, and you just do that, and you can't throw it to someone who's already caught it. So you have to figure out their name, but you keep doing it, and
And
then
when the kids think
in the
that they
same
have
order.
it down and they're so cool, you toss
Do it.
another ball in.
another
So you
ball
gotta throw
in,
it
and
at
so,
once.
and then when they think they're really cool, you do it backwards. So then you go to the person who threw it to you. I would throw it to Cheryl, and then you'd have to go backwards in the exact same order that you did. And that's one I like a real lot. But I usually have bean bags.
Bean
You
bags
do
are
it-
awesome for that.
Or rubber chickens.
You do
Rubber
stuff-
chickens are
Rubber
awesome.
chickens.
Stuffed animals.
Stuffed animals, you know.
It's
Just
So-
push that out.
particularly great when you get like 7 stuffed animals going, because it's just, you know.
And another thing that can work and can't work, there's counselor 20 questions. Sometimes the younger kids, it's great because it's what's your favorite color, do you have a girlfriend, you know, stuff like that. But the older kids, I've had, you know, the older kids say, when was the first time you had sex? Or did you ever smoke pot? You know, to the counselors, and they're like, whoa! You know, so you know, so if you think
Camp
about
appropriate 20 questions.
inappropriate questions, but you know, so sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So you have to gauge your age group and who your kids are and who your counselors are. If they're gonna feel like they should answer, or you know, you gotta tell them don't answer those questions.
One of the
Or
things that have worked well for us, the first is a name game. If you have, you get like a blanket, something that you can't see easily through, and you separate the group into two, and have them sit down. You raise the blanket like a curtain to 2 people. And each side takes somebody to move forward very quietly, silently, like you would go forward. And then you drop the blanket, and the first person to say the other person's name wins. Okay?
so you don't know who's on each
And
side.
so they have no idea
Nice.
who's
I gotta write that
across
down.
from them until it drops. And then if you lose, you go to the other side. So eventually, everybody is on the team.
Yeah.
And one,
It's like a whole lot
yeah.
of performance anxiety.
Well, the good news is if you don't get the name, you get to go on a team with more people, and they're excited to have you.
Exactly, it works well.
Yeah.
The other one for like getting to know your counselors is we would have each dean and counselor would have 3 facts about themselves written up in the same handwriting on separate sheets of paper, and then you put them on the floor in front of you and you say, okay, 3 belongs to each of us. Figure out which it is.
Yep, that's a
Yeah,
really
that's
good
what I
one.
was
And
With the
then
counselors.
they pick 3 for each, and you go down the line and say, well, 2 of mine are right.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, with
and
the
they
younger
keep- and they
kids,
keep
we
trying
like
until you
hold
get
a
it.
poster board with a strange fact about us, and it's
Okay.
not ours, it's someone else's, one of the other counselors. And the kids come up and rearrange the
Rearrange
poster
it,
boards and
like
try and
Price
figure
is
out like
Right.
which fact belongs to which
Okay.
counselor.
That's
So we were
good,
working
that's
with
good.
high school youth.
Yeah, this
so
is
it
for,
was
yeah,
more-
5th and 6th.
And you can do that with 2 facts and a lie
Yeah.
too. You can have the 3
Oh,
things
yeah.
and they hold it up and they say 2 of these are true and one's not, which
Oh, that's
one's
great.
not true.
And that's good for older kids.
But that's
too.
the counselors that are doing that, we're not making the kids kids do it, the
Right.
kids are guessing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know,
I guess.
maybe later in the week, if the kids, you know, and you'll know your campers by then, that might be something they could do later in the week, but I wouldn't make them give out that kind of information.
Break it into groups and, you know, I know all of you've done this, line them up by various things.
Yeah.
Birthdays,
Birthday.
Yeah.
December up to January.
Yeah. Well, one of the things.
Longest hair to shortest hair, tallest to shortest.
It's, you know, you have them go into groups. What's your favorite pizza? What's your favorite, you know, ride on the, you know, at Six Flags? Or, you know, any of those things. But when they get into the small group, there's another question they have to talk about in the small group. So, you know, you can do what was your most embarrassing experience. You can do, you know, just, you know, how do you feel about God today? What, you know, how did you first come to Silver Lake? But ask another question to talk about in a small group instead of just running around to the other groups once you do it. There's Would You Rather book, but there's also Would You Rather adult, so you need to make sure you're getting the right book. There's another book, I think it's called like Choose One or Pick One or Name One or something like that, and it just asks questions like that, you know, you could get a small group discussion about.
Yeah. When you're lining people up, if you think they're getting too good at it, you want to do birthdays, say, make it so that they can't talk.
Right, and make
Yeah.
it silent,
Yeah.
so they have to try
Usually
to
do that,
figure
like
out.
you do like 3 or 4 of them, and they think, oh, this is simple, and then you go, okay, now you have to figure out this, and you can't talk.
Our favorite one that we didn't do, we really wanted to do, we just never found a spot for it, is snowball fight. So you take, everybody gets a small piece of white paper and writes facts about themselves, and then you tell everybody to crumple up their paper, and you give them 30 seconds to have a snowball fight with their crumpled up piece of paper so they get thrown all over the room, and then you stop, and you pick up a piece of paper near you, and you need to go find the person with the fact on the paper that you picked up. So
That's
Yes.
really good.
for when you need some active,
Yeah.
if you don't want active energy, don't do that one, but if you need a little chaos, it's a way to infuse a little.
Yeah, like any ideas. So let's see, so we got to supper, all right, so after supper, before supper, I'm also a fan of making, you know, the counselors really step up to the plate and show the kids that it's okay to talk out loud, it's okay to pray out loud, it's okay to make a fool of yourself, it's okay to stand up, you know, on the, you know, fireplace and do goofy actions to a song. And the quicker that you can start that with the counselors, the quicker the kids, the more quickly the campers will join in and say, hey, this is okay. Because it's just like in the bad way that Elliot was talking about, you know, with the campers grooming, or the counselors grooming the camper. If they're acting correctly, the campers will also be groomed in a good way to act well and to participate and to, you know, if your counselors are back there going, oh, I hate this song, you know, then the kids will say, oh, I hate this song too. But if the counselors are up here going, then, you know, you're all set for the whole week. And so I like to start singing some of the real camp songs right off the bat, you know, before or after supper, but definitely on Sunday. And if I have a song that I want to teach the kids, you know, because it goes along with the theme, you start that on Sunday too, as far as I'm concerned.
My one note about that would be, having been a new dean just 3 years ago, is to be really conscious of the people in the room who don't know that song.
Right, no, you have to teach.
The songs are cool, but they're also the quickest way to make you feel like an
Yep.
outsider.
But you need to absolutely, even with the high schoolers, you have kids who've never been to camp before, you have to teach the songs and not expect that anyone knows them.
And maybe you give people the job of helping to teach,
Right.
so that it reminds everybody, because I do think that's a really fine line. You know, all the shorthand that we've got, and the songs are a big part of that. Create outsiders.
And I do need to share an observation. Trucker Jesus, the little ones really love that thing. But first of all, when they sing it, it's incomprehensible.
It is.
So, you know, if you don't already know it. The other piece of that is that O thing, is, it quickly becomes a control thing. If I go O, I can set this whole thing off.
Mhm.
And it would cycle to the point where everyone around the song hated it. And then so the fifth kid to go, oh, would get shouted down.
Mhm.
And suddenly that kid's no good.
Yeah.
I hate seeing that. I would love it if Trevor Jesus just fell off the face of the earth, honestly, because I watch this poor kid just crestfallen, and I hate to see that. I hate it.
As a dean, you can stand up and say, okay, we're done with Trucker Jesus. You know, watch. You know, you can watch the group, and after 3, you know, say, okay, 3's my limit. Okay, we're done. No more Trucker Jesus.
Right.
No, no, no. It's okay to be the bad guy as the dean. The deans get to do that. The counselors get to be loved. The deans are sometimes
I
bad
love
guys.
I'd love to see the camp clap come back, honestly.
Well,
Yeah.
we tried that a lot this past summer, the camp
Yeah.
clap. Yeah, we did it in 1973. Just so you know, this is not like a new thing. Camp clap has been there since
Right.
'59.
Scooter brought it back when he was on staff here, I think, in the 70s.
Well, I know that Scooter was one of my counselors also. So.
He went to a Girl Scout camp. Actually, Alden sent him to a Girl Scout camp to get some songs, and he brought Wadaliacha, he brought the camp clap, I think, a couple of those kind of things back.
Okay, now you can tell Scooter Pittman, who's the pastor in Southbury, that he brought the clap.
So now we are going to have to edit this video.
Another thing that you made me think of, if you are a returning dean and you have returning counselors and you have returning conferees, because of course you have an awesome camp, you have to help the counselors and yourself not to over-welcome the returnees compared to the new kids. Because when you're like, I'm so glad you're back, whoa, let me have a hug! You know, and, you know, Friday, that's going to be fine. But Joey, who's never been here, compared to who's here for their 4th year of Godslam, you're going to say, you can't, and it's hard, it's so hard, you know, but it's something you really have to watch out for. A couple of years ago, my counselors did get some evals that said it seemed like the counselors liked the old kids better than the new kids. And I had not noticed that, but somebody had noticed it, you know, and it's something that we worked on, you know, even then, but still obviously didn't work quite right, and that's a big thing.
I just want to say, something I observed about counselors too is that if they're a counselor that's counseling for the first time, they're kind of going through the same thing that a campers are.
Right, so if
It's
you
hard to
have
have
one
them
new
suddenly
counselor.
be goofy because they're
Yeah.
still in the awkward,
Yeah.
they may not know.
Well, that's what Saturday night is for. You get the counselors up there and you say, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and you're gonna do it in front of 30 kids. Let's hope for the best.
I just want to do a time check. It's 3:40.
It's
Yeah, I think we need to
All
wrap
right, I
up.
just had one more. I wanted to show you. Okay, Facebook has a 2013 Dean's specific site that you are all members of because you were all added. I put on the Facebook site that I was going to bring some stuff from this website for you guys all, and they're all icebreakers, and it talks about icebreakers and how to do things. Karen Zeal has been putting stuff up on this website from the new curriculum, and it's a place where you can go and ask questions and stuff like that. There's way more on this website than this, but this
So-
is what it is.
So if I wanted to search for this on
It's
Facebook,
right here, www.insight.typepad.co.uk. That's the,
no, the Facebook page. I
the
mean.
Facebook page is Silver, SLCC Deans 2013.
That's what I was remembering. I don't know. Jen set it up, so I don't know. What it
Yeah,
is. If you have not been invited to that, it's probably because Jen didn't have
name
your
as a dean
Facebook.
or have your Facebook,
thing.
know you were on
So-
Facebook, so.
Search for it, and then there's probably a thing that says you can ask to be a join to join it.
SLCC Deans
Deans 2013. And so there's stuff on there, but this is one of my favorite websites. There's other cool stuff on there. And there's some good games, and I will pass those out to everybody else. This is a really cool thing called Every Picture Tells a Story. You might have it. It's. I mean, obviously I've had it a long time, but you can throw these pictures out on the floor or on a table, and you can still be in your small groups, so kids don't have to talk in the large group. But you say. You can either do both, like Kimberly said, you go pick out an item and you don't know what the question is, or you can give them the question and then go pick it up. So you can say, okay, how do you feel about God today? Well, I'm going to go over here and look at these pictures. And, somebody might pick the picture that you like, and you have to pick another picture. So, I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell my little group how I feel about God today. Or how do I feel about being left at camp? Or, you can use this all during the week. I know of people who've made their own, just taken pictures, or they've taken pictures out of magazines, or, and you can either, tape them on a piece of cardboard, or you can laminate them if you have that ability, or you can just go out and take a whole bunch of photos and then, print them out at Walgreens. As long as you have a lot of different things that could, get conversation. And this one, Every Picture Tells a Story, gives you questions and themes and stuff that you could actually use if you wanted to.
Is that still a current?
I assume that you could get it if you went on it. And
eBay.
Amazon probably, would have it at somewhere somehow. I've had it for a long time and I use it a lot. Still, some of the pictures might not be. And they're all in black and white instead of color. So
What story is that one telling?
well, that's the thing. But you picked it up. Tell us the story. So, but anything that makes them start to talk, in a small group, and you can bring them back to a large group. And if somebody wants to speak in the large group, they can, or not. Or you pre-choose some counselors who are going to stand up and talk and see if anybody else wants to talk.
I just thought of another one that we used to do every year, which was you would take, everybody sit in a circle, and it's done silently, and you have a sweatshirt or a jacket or something that somebody donates to the group for this exercise, and everyone takes it, and with that jacket, they describe how they want to be treated this week. So, if they want somebody folds it up really carefully, or somebody puts it around them as a hug, or somebody puts it over there, whatever. So it's just silently, and it's just a way to sort of, how do you want to be treated this week?
And who was it last night that said they were using a towel?
Yeah.
As you, for the same kind of thing,
Yeah.
You can talk or not, as you do whatever you're going to do with that towel.
I've also done hope in a hat, so to speak. If folks are, when you're building your covenant or expectations for the week or whatever, and maybe sometimes it can be a little daunting to say it in front of everybody, you could take a little piece of paper, write down, this is my hope for the week. This is what I want to get out of this week. This is what I hope to leave with this week or whatever. And everybody folds it up, puts it in a hat, and then they're all read, but nobody has to be outed, so to speak, and yet everybody's heard. And so everybody respects what everybody has put in and what's come out of it.
We did a suitcase one year, it was just it looked like a suitcase on the front, and you folded it. And so on the front, it was what you brought to Silver Lake, that everybody, that you didn't, and then you opened it up, and then it was like your hope for the week that maybe you weren't going to say out loud, and you folded it over on your suitcase. And we pinned them up, and, but you didn't have to say what was in your suitcase. But it was a way for you to put it out there, because often when you are allowed to give voice, even if you're not saying it out loud, it makes it a little less stressful or tense. So.